Well, early voting begins in North Carolina in just a few days, but this election is going to come with a few new hurdles this year with the coronavirus pandemic. So your health and safety will be top of mind when you go to cast your vote. In today's 2-Year Wellbeing segment, we are breaking down the health precautions you'll want to take this year while you vote. Family medicine physician Dr. Zoe Stallings is with us. She's with Primary Care at Pomona, a member of the Cone Health Medical Group. So Dr. Stallings, we're going to jump right in this year and ask you, what is the best way that we can protect ourselves when we go out to vote?
Well, we still want to maintain the 3 Ws. Think about the mask. And I just want to demonstrate one more time, just because I see people and they're still doing it incorrectly. You want to cover your nose and your mouth with your mask. You should not have your mask pulled down below your chin, because that means you're not covering your face. So still wearing your mask, also washing your hands, and then, waiting until there's enough room, 6 feet. We still want that social distancing. That is very important.
All things that are important to keep in mind when we're voting. We know that voting takes a while, even when there's not a pandemic going on, Dr. Stallings. So is there anything that people might want to bring with them to the polls this year, maybe to keep the surfaces clean or something like that?
Yes, you can bring some wipes in a little Ziploc bag, or even a little hand sanitizer with you, because while you're waiting in line, if you have to sign anything or use a clipboard, you want to sanitize the pen or bring your own pen. Also be prepared. Sometimes at certain times of day, lines might be long. We still want you to maintain that distance. Every polling site will have different rules. But when you go in to vote, you can also wipe down surfaces before you start touching things. And then when you get back out, clean your hands again. Washing with soap and water for at least 20 seconds would be ideal. But if you can't, go ahead and use some hand sanitizer. Also, think ahead. If you know that you're going to vote, grab a snack, drink some water before you go into the line, or bring a bottle of water with you so you stay hydrated. During certain times, you might see longer lines. So go ahead and maintain that social distancing. Bring your hand sanitizer, clean your hands, and keep your mask on the entire time. You can talk through these. People can still hear you. Keep them on.
I love that demonstration. Yes, you can talk. You can do this entire interview with the mask. I could as well, Dr. Stallings. And we know that North Carolinians are going to be voting using a pen this year, so you can wipe that down once you get that. You mentioned waiting in line, Dr. Stallings. What do people need to do if they're in line and they see people who aren't wearing their mask correctly, or maybe aren't keeping that 6 feet of space, standing too close?
That's important. We don't really want you to harass anyone. We don't want you to be threatening. Sometimes emotions run high. We want you to start with you first. Protect yourself by putting your mask on, wearing it appropriately. And you can even remind somebody by saying, just a little signal, like your mask is down. Sometimes when you remind people, your mask is down, it reminds them to pull it up. Also, if someone is inching a little bit closer to you, you could even say, excuse me, I just want you to make sure you maintain that distance. Many of those facilities will have little markings on the ground, but if they don't, the way I think about it is you should have a full arm's length out. So sometimes just doing a little stretch might remind the person next to you, give me a little room. I need some space, get out of my bubble. And that's okay to do.
I love that advice. And you have such a lovely smile when you do that, so people can't be mad about it. Is there anything that we need to know before we head out to vote to keep us safe?
I think that, we really want to think about our overall health and well-being when we go out. But now is not the time to bring extra people with you. We still want you to remember that while people are voting in line, if you could leave the kids at home. I know that we want to teach our children civic responsibility, but this time maybe just have them read some things or watch the news, but don't necessarily bring a lot of unnecessary people with you. For our elderly, we want to make sure that we still protect them. So they need to have their masks on the entire time they're out of the house. Once you leave the house, put the mask on. While you're waiting to vote, keep the mask on. If you see a friend that you haven't seen in a while, refrain from hugging. Keep your distance. It's okay to still have a conversation, but we don't need to go back as though this COVID is not happening. The numbers are still going up. So we need to be careful and just very vigilant, because even though some people are getting a little COVID fatigue, they're tired of wearing the mask, they feel like it doesn't make a difference. Our data shows it does make a difference. So wear your mask, limit your contact with other people, wash your hands, wear the mask the right way. If your nose is out, it's incorrect. I can't say that enough. And then remember, when you're at the polls, do not bring extra people. You are voting. You're the only one in that booth. So don't bring the kids, the grandkids. Now is the time that you try to limit how many people go with you, unless they are voting. Only the registered voters should be in line. So the little kids can stay somewhere else until you're finished. Also, wash your hands when you're finished. And if you work the polls, if you're someone who is working at the polling station, change your clothes. You've been out there all day in contact with people. Do not wear the same clothes home and lay in your bed. When you get home, change your clothes.
Really good tips there. And we know early voting starts this week, October 15th. Dr. Stallings, in my experience, I found that early voting is usually not as crowded, and also you can vote at any of the polling places. So if you go to one and the lines are really long, you can choose to go somewhere else. You're not assigned to
go somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. All right, so Dr. Stallings is going to stick around for the next few minutes, and she's going to answer your questions about COVID-19, the pandemic, voting during the pandemic, anything you want to know about this virus. You can text your questions to us. The number is 336-379-5775. We're jumping into those questions after the break.